Hey y'all, welcome back to SLB Basement Bourbon Bar. My name is Kurt. We want to follow up with last week's video with another video of the same format. My 5 favorite whiskeys in the bar in the specific categories of bourbon, rye whiskey, Japanese whiskey, Irish whiskey, and Scotch whiskey. However, on my previous video, it was truly my favorites of the entire bar, regardless of price range. As you know, some of them were pretty pricey. Actually, most of them were pretty pricey. But, however, today's video, we want to concentrate on whiskeys that are generally around the $50 mark. Some will be a little higher, some will be a little lower. But around the $50 mark, these are my favorite whiskeys in SLB Basement Bourbon Bar in those specific categories. Before we get started, if you would please hit that subscribe button. We can't be more thankful to all of you that have subscribed lately. We appreciate each and every one of you. Once you've done that, hit that subscribe button, and that way you won't miss a single episode of the show. Okay, very first category I have for you today is bourbon whiskey. I mean, I torment myself. Trenton gives me all these assignments. Hey, do this, find this, find this. This is the video we're going to do today, and it just blows my mind because it's so hard to make these decisions. So, bourbon, of course, is just an extremely hard decision to make, but I did it. It took me probably an hour to figure out what bourbon around the $50 price range that is my absolute favorite, but I had to settle on Knob Creek 12 year. I had to do it. It's a little more than $50, but I think it's around 60 bucks. The fact of the matter is, though, this is a quintessential bourbon. It's actually got a 12-year age statement on it. I mean, where can you buy a 12-year bourbon that is this quality for about 60 bucks? You can't. You just can't do it. It's got the vanilla, a little bit of molasses, brown sugar. It's just got a fantastic bourbon profile with all the characteristics that you're looking for in a quintessential bourbon. And for this particular price range, I battled with my own mind on this category especially, but I had to settle with the Knob Creek 12 year. If you see it, you don't have it. If you see it anywhere and you find it for around $60, don't miss out. It is an unbelievable bourbon for that price range. All right, moving on for the rye whiskey category. I'm not going to say this is an easy decision, but I am. It was a fairly easy decision. How can you go wrong with Pikesville Rye? I mean, how can you go wrong with that? Again, it's a little bit over $50. It's 110 proof, but it's a Heaven Hill release that it's just it's very creamy. It's got a bit of a sweetness to it, but yet it still has a little bit of tobacco and a little bit of dark chocolate there. More than not, when I sip this Pikesville Rye, which I do more than not neat, I usually never put this on a block of ice. I don't know why. Some I do, some I don't. It's just the habits that I've gotten into, but this particular Pikesville Rye I usually drink neat 99.9% of the time. It just has it is a little, does have the rye spice to it as you would figure with a rye whiskey, but it's got a very unique sweetness to it, a really sweet quality to it. It's just really, really, really good. If you find this for 60 bucks or less, please don't pass it up. Well worth it. My favorite rye for around the $50 category, Pikesville Rye. Moving on to my Japanese whiskey category. This was an easy decision. Of course, I don't have a lot of Japanese whiskey bottles here, but this Kiriyoshi Sherry Cask whiskey, is phenomenal. And what'd you say, Trent? This is around 50 some bucks or something like that? 60 bucks. $60 for this thing. And I bought it a couple years ago, but I like to have a pour of this neat every once in a while. It's a little bit low ABV. It's 92%. 92 proof. I'm sorry, 92 proof, but it's a blend of single malt whiskeys. Some of them are from Scotland, some of it is from Japan, but then they age it for 5 years in wine casks. I mean, you know, how can you go wrong with that? I mean, I can't. I mean, I know some of the comments have kind of been battering me a little bit about my finished whiskeys, but I couldn't pass up this Kiriyoshi. It's just a delightful pour. It really is. If you see this anywhere, it's won a lot of different awards, but the price hasn't went skyrocket just because it's a Japanese whiskey. But Kiriyoshi Sherry Cask, if you find it, get it. It's just a delightful pour. Drink it neat. See how you like it. It's got a lot of sweetness to it, a little bit of marshmallow, but citrus. And what I find more than anything else is the strawberry note in here. It's got a really light, very beautiful strawberry note to this particular whiskey. Like it a lot. Kiriyoshi Sherry Cask. Enough of that. Moving on to my Irish whiskey category for around 50 bucks. You know, I had to choose Teeling single grain. I almost said 4 grain, but I knew that wasn't right. Teeling's single grain. A very, very nice Irish whiskey for around that money. Got some cereal notes in there with a little bit of, just maybe a tiny hint of smoke, but it has a very luscious vanilla cream in there with it too. It's just a beautiful drinking experience. This one also is matured in wine casks as well, but I find it to be extremely inviting, a very relaxing and enjoyable pour. Teeling single grain, my choice for around $50 in the Irish whiskey category down here at SLB Basement Bourbon Bar. Last but not least, Scotch. Scotch is almost like bourbon. It's extremely hard for me to decide what might be my favorite one. So what I did here, this particular bottle that I chose is a decent amount less than $50, but it has a little bit of a sentimental value as well to me. Glenmorangie Original, the Glenmorangie 10-year. When I was, several years ago, I was really getting into bourbon and different things, and I was trying to extend my palate into Scotch whiskey. And a good friend of mine, Jay, told me, hey, start with the Glenmorangie 10-year. Start with there because it's just a very light, enjoyable experience, and it's a good introductory to Scotch whiskey. So I got it. This isn't the very first bottle I bought. I've had a couple other ones besides this one, but I think, Trent, what was this, 30-something bucks? This was like $30-something dollars. I mean, it's extremely inexpensive. It's not quite the $50 range, but I kept looking. I just kept going back to this Glenmorangie 10-year. It's a very soft feel to the whiskey. It's got some honey, a little bit of nuts, and a little bit of orange peel on the background there. It's just a really, really nice experience for $30-something dollars. It's only 86 proof, so it's very, very nice to drink, easily to drink. It's best, in my opinion, if you drink it neat and you experience the whiskey for what it is. Glenmorangie, the original, the 10-year, it just had to be my choice for my favorite in the $50, roundabout category, give it a try. Especially if you're new to Scotch and you want to kind of, grow your palate into the Scotch world, pick up this bottle. You won't be disappointed. I promise you that. That's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for watching. We always appreciate each and every one of you. As always, we ask you to please drink responsibly. That's very, very important and important to the show. We'll see you next time, right down here with me in a good old basement bourbon bar. See you later.